Chavrusa Daf.
Toshma, we are on Yud Zayin Amid Beis, the bottom, about more than halfway down. And Rav Ashi had a question as to whether a Nazir, who became a Nazir when he was in a cemetery, does he require head shaving or not? Do we say that head shaving is required only for a Nazir Tahor who became Tameh because he defiled his Naziris, and head shaving is based off of the defilation.
Wow, okay.
Or do we say it's because, but not for a person who was Tameh, who adopted Naziris, or not? So we have a pasuk in Vayikra Li, Ein li ela yemei tumasi she'ein oilin le'im min hamiyin. The Torah states that if a Nazir is contaminated by a corpse, he forfeits the days. Oh, it's Bamidbar. He forfeits the days of Naziris he had counted. It follows that certainly the days of corpse tumah themselves do not count towards the completion of his term.
I think that's...
Okay, that's what we're going to have by the Kal V'chomer coming up.
Yeah.
Yo, you read ahead?
We just...
Yeah, the reason what's funny is because we recorded before, we had to come back to this Gemara because it doesn't really make sense without this Gemara. That's why we're here where we are, and we know a little bit about what's coming up. Okay.
So the Torah states that if a Nazir is contaminated by a corpse, he forfeits the days of Naziris that he had counted. It follows that certainly the days of the corpse, some of themselves, while he's Tumah and he has to wait till he's Tahor again, do not count towards the completion of his term. It was 17. The Nazir became Tameh, right?
Mm-hmm.
With corpse Tumah, he must become Tahor and then begin his Naziris again. The days until he begins the purification process, okay? So let's say you became Tameh on January 1st. And he waits a few days until he goes to the, I don't know. The days until he begins the purification process, plus the days of the purification process. So he waits a few days and then he starts the 7-day process until the sprinkling and immersion on the 7th day of purification are days of Tumah. So he could be Tameh for the next 20 days if he waits until day 13 to start the 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these days of Tumah obviously do not count towards his term of Naziris. For if even the days when he was Tahor are forfeited by the Nazir's state of Tumah, certainly the time he is Tameh does not count towards his term. Meaning he may have lost, if let's say he said, I'm going to be a Nazir for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
On day 10, he became Tameh. So he loses 10 days. And now he's going to be Tameh for the next, let's say, 15 days if he waits. If he start the purification process, plus then he's Tameh again. That's day 25. He's finally Tahor again. So how many days does he have on his belt of Naziris? 0.
None.
0 from the first 10 days because he lost that. Then he was Tameh for the next 15 days. Definitely doesn't count. So that's what it's saying. If his original days that were forfeited when he was in Nazir Tahor are forfeited, then certainly the days where he's Tameh for the last however many days, 7+ days that it took him to become Tameh, Tahor again, are lost. Mm-hmm. That's what this Gemara is saying. Tashema, ein li eli meitum asay she'ein leila min minyan. So now we only know that a Nazir's days of corpse are not reckoned for him in the count of his term. Yemei chilutai. Where do we know that a Nazir's days of confirmed saras are also not counted towards his term? So now we have a Nazir who's also a Mitzayir.
Mm-hmm.
A Nazir is also a Mitzayir. When he's a Mitzayir, do those days of
Count towards his
Mitzayir
Naziris.
count towards his Naziris? Let's 18 to help us a little bit more. A person who displays some of the symptoms of tsaras is quarantined. Ooh, trigger word. For observation to determine his status. If he had initially developed all the symptoms, or if at the conclusion of the quarantine certain developments in the condition have occurred, his stress is confirmed, right? You go to the Kayan, they look at it, they're not sure, so you wait. But if these symptoms continue, you have confirmed tsaras. If subsequently, so I guess after confirmed tsaras, the tsaras symptoms disappear, he is considered healed. And now, since he was confirmed tsaras, the tsaras went away, he must undergo a purification process. The 8-day process of purification from confirmed tsaras includes body shaving and sacrifices. Wow, we get some religion. The Brisa seeks to prove that if a Nazir became a Mitzaira, his days of confirmed tsaras do not count towards his Nazir's term. While he was a confirmed tsaras, you can't count that towards your Nazir's term. See below 56a(b), but both the period during which he is confirmed Mitzaira and 8-day period of purification are also not counted towards the Nazir's term. So that whole point is like taken away. It is evident from the Brisa that a Nazir who became a confirmed Mitzaira and was healed may shave his head in conformance with the procedure mandated for a Mitzaira. The prohibition against a Nazir shaving his head is superseded by the mitzvah of Mitzaira purification. So let's just, say that again. We know by a Mitzaira, if someone gets symptoms of tsaras, he goes to the kayin, and then they wait a few days and they realize, okay, you're confirmed tsaras, Mitzaira. It's to wait for that tsaras to go away. When it goes away, there's a purification process that consists of 8 days, and then followed by body shaving and sacrifices. If it was a Nazir who was a Mitzaira, those days that he's at Mitzaira and the purification period of 8 days does not count towards his Naziris. And at the end of it, he's allowed to shave his body or head, even though a Nazir is not allowed to do that. The mitzvah of Mitzaira overrides that.
Right.
How does that sound?
Good. So just as for the days of his tumah, he shaves his head and brings a sacrifice, so towards days of confirmed tsaras, he shaves and brings a sacrifice. And just as days of tumah are not confirmed the calendar, also the confirmed tsaras are not confirmed the calendar term. And therefore, Binyomin, this principle dictates that whenever commonality of law or essence is found in two separate areas of Torah law, analogies may be drawn from one to the other, and the law which applied to one completely applied to the other as well. Since commonality of law is shared by Tumah Tsaras and Corpse Tumah, which occur to a Nazir, both require head shaving. An analogy may be drawn between them vis-a-vis, just as the period during which the Corpse Tumah is in effect does not count toward the completion of the Nazir term, so too does the period of Tsaras not count.
Where were you reading from?
Note 21.
Ooh, you jumped. Okay.
So you have a case here that we're comparing. We know that the tumah of tsaras and the corpse tumah, which accord to a nazir, they both require head shaving. So now we can compare them, that just as the period during which corpse tumah in effect does not count towards the completion of the nazir term, so too the period of tsaras tumah does not count.
Great.
So we've compared them too. Mm-hmm. But I think we really wanted to compare them because of the head shaving component.
Okay, I'm fine with
They
that.
both require head shaving.
That's the answer.
That's Rav Ashi's question,
Yeah.
right? So we see the answer is that yes, you do have to shave even if you're a nazir who became in the cemetery. And I would have liked I think there's one of those cases where the article doesn't really speak that part out. Like that's the missing piece here. Remember that was the whole question.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to challenge the preceding argument. Like, what was the argument? You didn't really finish through on how that answers Rav Ashi's question.
Right. Which answer? Was it yes or no?
The answer is yes, you do shave because it's like a Mitzaira.
Right.
Also, like note 21, if you look at it, like the Binyan Av compares the definitivity of a Nazir and a Mitzaira, that they both require head shaving.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, now you can compare them in the case of counting as well, that they both not counted. But we only wanted to bring the question for the head shaving.
Yeah.
You don't need to come on to the Binyan Av
Yeah.
to discuss.
Unless that's note 20, and that's why maybe it went first.
That is, as part of his purgation for shots, the person is obligated to shave his body, including his head. Okay, that's fine,
And then so too Nazir, right?
but it doesn't really speak that out. I think I'm going to send this to Art Scroll. I have Reb Aaron Zlotowitz there. I'm going to send it to him.
We'll respond to your...
I think it requires further inspection because...
I actually had Art Scroll listen to one of my requests.
Yeah?
I was telling them, I wrote in once, I was talking for years that the Mishnayos that they had, so lengthy, that they had this English Mishnayos, wasn't clear. It was I wanted a more push-up shot, like the way that they do this for the Art Scroll Gemara. Do that for the Mishnah. Said they would bring whatever. They ended up making it, and now it's right there, and see that top shelf? The Mishnah in the middle? That blue? It's blue, top shelf in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole new set of Mishnayos.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's the Binyomin Swerdlik edition?
Yeah, they don't. I wrote...
Did you have $1 million check?
No, but I think it was my idea. Anyways,
Yeah. Okay, so for those listening, Art Scroll, page is 17b2, and no 2021 doesn't really see this through. But we have a gist of what is going on, and we come out from this that you can compare Truma of a Nazir to Tzaras, and the answer to Ravashi is yes, you shave your head. Lo yememar to be made tumasik. No, if you said it's concerning his days of Tuma, shkei mevatel behen esa koidmin, that is because they cancel the previous days, and therefore they are not reckoned. Lefikach ein oidlin lo mina minyan. That is because they cancel the previous days, and therefore they are not reckoned for him in the count for his term. Will you say so concerning his days of Ras, which do not cancel the previous days? Therefore they are reckoned for him in the count of his term.
I actually get it.
You do get it?
Yeah. Saras, when a guy gets Saras, a Nazir gets Saras, the days before he got the Saras are still counted. So let's say he already had a week under his belt. He doesn't lose that. Then the Tzaras kind of suspends it. He doesn't lose the original 7, but he also doesn't gain for those. And he continues to count. Okay? So the Gemara is saying, you can't compare Nazir to Mitzvah, because a Nazir, when he gets Tameh, loses those first 7 days, let's say, that he already had under his belt. Mitzvah doesn't lose that. So you can't now compare those middle days of the purification process until it becomes Tahor again to understand whether or not those days count towards Nazir. So now we're saying, maybe for Mitzvah, those days actually do count towards his Nazir period. Maybe those days in the middle do count. It's not Mavatal the earlier days that he already has under his belt. Maybe, therefore, they are reckoned for him in the count of his term.
22. One of the rules which govern the application of the principles of Binyomin is that there not be a difference of law or essence between the two areas of Torah law. Any difference is a contradiction to the basic idea of Binyomin, namely that their two areas are to be identical. Therefore, the fact that days of current Saras Truma do not cause a forfeiture of the previous days, while corpse Truma does, invalidates the Binyomin. Why do we not accord forfeiture power to the Truma of confirmed Saras and derive this from Binyomin? The further space and mission, the orange and everything else. Okay. So,
Al Kolpanim, what do you see from here? You see that we cannot compare Stam Nazir who became Tameh to a Nazir who became Mitzayra, because Mitzayra doesn't lose their original days and a Nazir does. Therefore, we can't compare. And therefore learn out from the Mitzayra that a Nazir also has to shave his head. So we have no raya to Ravashi's question.
okay.
So now we just rejected the argument based on the Binyan. So now we're going to try to use a Kabul Chaimer instead. Amar, you could say to Kabul Chaimer. Is this our first Kabul Chaimer, the Masechta?
I think so.
Kabul Chaimer time. Nazir v'kever. Just royalist. If someone became a Nazir, well, say he said Iranian Nazir in the base chorus. So even though his hair is fit for head shaving, the Naziris, and yet ein oilam in a minyan, but those days that he's tamei now are not going to count towards Naziris. You make chiluta she'ein royalist gafas by a tzaras, by someone who was a Nazir and then got tzaras. Where his hair is not fit for head shaving, I don't understand why not. But like Kol Shein She'ein Lo Minyan, isn't that all the more certain that those days while he's tamei should not count towards his Naziris? I think maybe because
They're trying to compare. We're trying to make. Oh, we're getting away from the Binyomin. We're not looking to make them comparable anymore.
Right, now we're just using the Kal Chaimer.
So Nazir, who's in a cemetery, even though his hair is fit for head shaving of Naziris, nevertheless, his days of Tumah are not reckoned for him in the count for his term. Right? He forfeits those days.
Yeah.
Even though there's nothing wrong with his hair.
No, nothing wrong with his hair.
If so, then regarding his days of confirmed saras, when his hair is not fit for head shaving, because that's
because he's going to have to cut his hair?
after the Mitzayra, right?
Yeah.
Is it not all the more certain that they're not reckoned for him in the count for the term?
They're totally independent things, but we're just trying to bring a Kal Chaimer that if by right, I think let's try to speak it outside.
That by Nazir's hair is pure, let's call it.
Okay.
By Nazir,
His hair is pure.
his hair, he has
And
hair.
yet,
The days, pure is a bad word, but like
his
hair is
he's going to have a full head of hair.
right, full head of hair. Nevertheless, he forfeits those days because he's tamei.
A Mitzayra who doesn't have this full head of hair because he's going to have to shave it.
Right.
And certainly he's going to forfeit those days because they're not good hair days.
Okay, so now you prove to me why Mitzayra lost those days. How does that prove to me that Ravashi?
Very good question.
Okay, Viter. The Bryce asserted that if a person became a Nazir while in a cemetery, his hair is fit for head shaving. And this seems to resolve Rav Ashi's query. My lav tiglachas tuma. Does the Bryce not mean head shaving for tuma? It follows then that a person who adopted Naziris while in a cemetery is obligated to shave his head, and Rav Ashi's query is resolved. Does the Bryce not mention head shaving for tuma? When it says that he has hair fit for head shaving of Naziris.
Oh, so what does that mean?
The Bryce assumes that head shaving will take place upon the purification from the tumah of the cemetery. That when we say he has a full head of hair, that means that once he becomes pure, he's going to shave his head, which is Rav Ashi's exact question.
Okay.
So like it was a piece of the Kal V'chomer.
Yeah.
Like we brought this Kal V'chomer, which shows that, okay, maybe Mitzayra's days should not be part of his term, but an ingredient. We're doing it for the ingredient of that Kal V'chomer. And one of the ingredients was, hey, you see here that he's going to shave his head after the tumah. Comes along in the Gemara and says, Loi tiglachas tahar. No, the Bryce refers to the head shaving and the purity at the conclusion of the Nazir's term. In fact, this 26. It might very well be that a person who adopted Naziris while in the cemetery does not shave his head on the seventh day of his purification. Nevertheless, after purification, he starts his Nazir's count, and at the conclusion of his term, he performs the concluding rituals of head shaving and sacrifices. It is to this head shaving that the Bryce refers, and not to the head shaving.
Which is, I think, what we thought when you were reading the Gemara. And that's
That was later on. That was,
That's what we didn't understand the Kal Chaimer. Like,
Right.
it didn't answer the questions. The Gemara had to say, no, because it's that hair cutting is talking about the 8th day, the 7th day Tara
Right.
type of hair cutting.
Right.
And the Gemara answers, no. It's talking about the hair cutting at the end
right,
of the period.
right.
The Isak of Daidaf, Tidachas Toma, if you're talking about the Hashem of the Toma after 7 days, Yemechiluta means like Ba'i Tidachas. Do not his days of confirmed saras also require head shaving for Toma?
What's that?
At Mitzayra, at the end of his purification process, also has to do the whole body shaving, head shaving, an entire body. So that whole Kal Chaimer doesn't make sense because it said a tzaraz is not fit for head shaving. But a Mitzayra actually does do head shaving after day 7, but a Mitzayra doesn't do head shaving after 30 days.
Oh, so it must be talking about the 7 day.
It has to be talking about the 7 day haircut.
Or there's no. After all, the brisa could be referring to head shaving for tuma. Tegalas to Nazir's Kastani. The brisa is discussing head shaving mandated by the law of Nazirs, because this mitzvah is also a Nazir.
Okay.
So it's not talking about the mitzvah dika here. It's talking about the Nazir's dika here, and therefore it's talking about after the 7 days. And if so, we can't really learn much out. The brisa does not provide conclusive proof, since it can be interpreted with reference both to the concluding head shaving of the Nazir, as above, or to the head shaving on the 7th day of the Nazir's purification from corpse tuma. This concluding ritual is also a head shaving of Nazir. So we're not talking about the end of the 30 days. And therefore what? How does that
It does not provide conclusive proof, since it can be interpreted with reference both to the concluding head shaving of the Nazir or to the head shaving on the 7th day of the Nazir's purification.
Right. We needed...
The concluding ritual is also a head shaving Nazir, so there's no raya either way, and therefore we don't know... therefore we can't make this Kal V'Chomer, and therefore we don't have an answer to Rav Ashi's question.
Right. We needed... This Kal V'Chomer is contingent on the fact that it was referring to the head shaving of a Tuma. And we're saying that, no, it could be the Nazir all the way at the end. So that's not what Rav Ashi is asking. He's asking about the hair cutting after the 7 days.
Yeah.
Tashma. Come and learn a proof from the following brisa. Okay, Tashma. We now need to answer Rav Ashi's question. But Timei Roshin is a Torah writes and contaminate his Nazir hair, his Nazir head. The pasuk says, but if someone were to suddenly die beside him and contaminate his Nazir head, he is to shave his head on the days of his purification. On the 7th day shall he shave it. The Torah goes on to describe the special karbanos for Tumah, which the Nazir brings on the 8th day of his purification procedure. Bitar shnit makas medaber. The verse is discussing a Nazir, Tahar, who became Tameh. Shutan avar seir babas tiparin, and teaches that he needs removal of his hair and the offering of birds. V'lifter es a Nazir bekever. And the pasuk also means to exempt the Nazir in a cemetery. She'ein tar avar seir babas tiparin, teaching that he does not need removal of the hair and the offering of the birds. Although the pasuk clearly refers to a Nazir Torah who became Tameh, one might have thought to extend the law to the one who adopted Nazirus while Tameh, based on the reasoning set forth shortly. However, the superfluous verse and contaminate his Nazir head comes to exclude the one who adopted Nazirus while Tameh. The brisa states clearly that a person who adopted Nazirus while Tameh requires neither the special karbanos for Tumah nor the head shaving of the 7th day. So we see it basically here in the brisa. Without the pasuk, one might have argued otherwise. Can it be derived by means of a Kal V'Chomer that the Nazir in a cemetery does require these things? Why? If a Nazir Tar became Tameh, needs removal of a hair and offering of birds, even though he was Tar at the start, then concerning someone who was Tameh from the start, isn't it logical that he should not remove the hair and the offer and do the karbanis? Tamid, right? Because when you have a guy that's pretty good, he's tahar, and then he does it, and he still has to make amends. Shouldn't someone who's very bad and was tameh certainly make amends? Comes along the Torah and says Tamid lemer v'timei rosh Nazir, and contaminate his Nazir head. The pasuk is asking someone who was tar and then became tameh. And teaches that only such one needs removal of hair and offering of the birds. And you, Rav Ashi, the pasuk is coming to teach you to exempt the Nazir in a cemetery from head shaving and the karbanis. Shema Minya. Learn from this that a person who adopted Nazir while tameh does not shave his head on the 7th day of his purification. Also says about no karbanis. We didn't really talk about that part, but that's what we come to learn because the pasuk is excluding them. Thank you, and that's why we have the pasuk. The Gemara investigates the authorship of a brisa countered above. Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, Yud Zayin Amud Beis. Who taught the following brisa? Man Tana Had the Tana Rabbanan, which is taught by the Rabbanan. What is the brisa? Ein bein tuma shenozel nazar tar shenitma. There's no difference between a tamei person who declared Naziris and a Nazir Torah became tamei. Ela shetamei shenazar shvi shaloi oila min aminyan. Except that in the case of a Tameh who declared Naziris, the 7th day is reckoned for him in the count.
And cemetery, Sahari Nazir?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right, because once he starts, then he's good. But Nazir, at the end, he can start that first day. But Nazir Torah shenitma ein shvi shaloi oila minyan. Whereas a Nazir Torah became a Tameh, his 7th day is not reckoned for him in the count of his term. Which I understand where the Gemara is going, because we just said that there's more of a difference, right? like we just learned out from a pasuk. I don't know, maybe this is not where the Gemara is going, but we just learned out from a pasuk.
Well, we're just wondering who authored this Mishnah. But yes, sorry, what were you?
Because the pasuk just said that there's a difference between a Nazir Tar and a Nazir Shenitma, or a Nazir
Yes.
that started
What
Tameh.
is the difference? The difference is the hair cutting.
The hair cutting at the end of the 7 days, and having to bring karbanas. And here we're saying just the only difference is someone who
The 7th day.
the
Didn't
7th day
mention-
didn't mention anything about the
Karbanas
hair cutting.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe there's two different. They learn out differently.
let's see what they-
Amar Rav Chizda, Rabbi he. The brisa which says that the only difference is the 7th day of reckoning, whether it's counted, that brisa is compatible with Rebbe. Dama Rebbe, for Rebbe said, Ein Nazir, he got the Rebbe. Like, everyone's called a Rebbe.
I know.
But like he got the name. He claimed it. It's trademark, copyright.
Yeah. Right. Rabbi Yodanasi is Rebbe.
Yeah. Rabbi Yochanan, call me Rebbe. No, you're Rabbi Yochanan.
It's like the Rebbe.
Yeah. The Rebbe, it's claimed. Boom, done.
The Rav.
The Rav, like the rock. Okay. Chas v'shalom. Ein Nazir's tahar chala ela ad shmini. He's gonna put the rock, by the way, in the photo. He said it. Ein Nazir's tahar chala ela ad shmini. Nazir's tahara for a Nazir who became tamei does not take effect until the 8th day of the purification process. To eat tema, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, because if we say that the price is compatible with the race of the son of Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Nazir's tahar mishvihu d'chayla. Your suggestion will be rejected since he says that Nazir's tahar takes effect from the 7th day. Right. So according to Rebbe, this Nazir tahar who became tamei, he has to wait until the 8th day to become. He has to wait until the 8th day to become tahar, and that's when he can start counting. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, says that you don't have to wait to the 8th day. They're actually the same. A Nazir tamei and a Nazir who was tahar and became tamei, or a Nazir started in Nazirus when he was tamei, they both can start counting on the 7th day. You don't have to wait until the 8th day. So who's the brisa that we mentioned above? That has to be Rebbe, because he's the one who says that only the 8th day is applicable in a case where you are tamei and then became, and then you declared new Nazirs.
Okay.
The source for the opinions of Rebbe and Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, referred to by Rav Chizda, is sought. My Rebbe, my Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. What statement of Rebbe and what statement of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, was Rav Chizda talking about? The Tanya, he was referring to that which we have learned in the Brisa, Mekidash es roisha b'yemahu, and he shall sanctify his head on that day. That was the pasuk we brought before, right? Oh no, that was contaminated Nazir head, but let me just see the full pasuk.
The Kohen shall prepare one bird as a chatas, and one as an olal, and he shall atone for him for having sinned regarding the dead person, and he shall sanctify his head on that day. The chatas and olal referred to for the Nazir's special bird sacrifice for Tumah, and he shall sanctify his head means growing the hair in fulfillment of the Nazir's vow.
So this that he shall sanctify his head on that day. Yoim havas karbanaisav de Rebbe. The term that day means on the day of the offering of his sacrifices. These are the words of Rebbe, and that's why 15, the 8th day of purification from the tomb of the dead. As soon as the day for offering sacrifices arrives, the 8th day of the purification process, the count of Naziris is resumed, even before the Nazir actually brings his offering. So that 8th day is when he can start. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Aimer b'yom tigag losoi. He says the term that day means on the day of set shaving, which is the 7th day. So that's why he can start a bit earlier. Shall we stop here? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So we are up to the Hadithnan. What we're going to do is spend Shabbos to do this. And then on Shabbos, we're going to take down Yotes and pick up Chavrusa Daf from Yirtzeh Hashem with a new parak on Chaf Amud Beis.
It's a new pair?
Yeah.
Wait, no, sorry. Sunday, Chaf Amud Aleph.
Chaf Amud Aleph, correct? And then it ends, and then halfway through, it starts a new daf.
Okay, so we'll see you at the Mishnah on the bottom. Should we do the Mishnah? Should we get to the Mishnah on Chaf Amud Aleph or Yirtzeh Hashem base?
There's a Mishnah on Yirtzeh Hashem Beis?
Bottom of Yirtzeh Hashem base.
Yeah, so by tomorrow night, you should be up to that Mishnah.
Okay, that I could do.
Okay?
Let's do it.
And then we just brought a Gemara that was compatible only with Rebbe before the Mishnah, that it's including it starts at the 8th day. We're gonna continue when you learn by yourself with the mission that's compatible only with Reb Yoshi
Reb Eli.
that it's
Good
the
Shabbos.
7th day. Good Shabbos.